So good morning, everyone. For my talk today, I'd like to focus on maybe some of the more positive aspects of the IRROG HRB grant experience and tell you about some of the key milestones and achievements we've had since the formation of IRROG in 2022. So the vision of IRROG is to, sorry, I can't see those slides. You can see them, can you? There we go. The vision of IRROG is to improve cancer outcomes through enabling the delivery of novel radiotherapy treatments through dedicated national radiotherapy trials group and ensuring patients have equitable access to clinical trials no matter where they receive their radiation treatment in the country. So we've built our strategy around the values of academic excellence, equity of access, inclusivity. We have a PPI group and collaboration. And through our clinical trials, we collaborate with all of the clinical trials units around the country, all of the other national clinical trials groups that are presenting here today, including pediatrics. So this was a slide I presented to the HRB of a roadmap of how we were going to achieve our strategy. And this was going to be by increasing the number of radiation oncology researchers involved in a national group, increasing the number of trials that are attractive to patients by involving patients from our PPI group in the design of our clinical trials and selection of our clinical trials. We wanted to work closely with CTI on our startup efficiency. We have launched a national radiotherapy quality assurance group, and we are also about to launch our website where we will advertise our trials to patients and signpost IRROG to international sites. We held an inaugural conference in 2023, and we've another national conference planned for later this year. So has our strategy worked? I think the answer is yes. So far, we have tripled the number of patients on clinical trials, with 259 patients on trials last year, which was year 3 of IRROG, compared to 74 patients, which was our baseline pre-IRROG. And as a comparison, CT-RAD in the UK had doubled their numbers of patients on clinical trials in the first 5 years of their strategy. We had the same target to double our numbers, but in fact we've tripled our numbers in 3 years, and now the challenge will be to maintain or exceed that. So far, year to date this year, we're on target of 125 patients this year so far. So looking back at 2024, we had 259 patients accrued across 17 trials. 219 of these were interventional trials, with only 40 on registry trials. These are figures from CTI that show that IRROG was one of the highest accruing HRB clinical trials groups, and within that, across the country, Luke's was the highest accruing hospital site to interventional trials. Reflecting back over progress year on year, we've seen an increase in the number of trials, a number of patients on trials at all our sites. We were delighted to have an extra member to IRROG, the Matter Private, joined, and then this year we're hoping to open 2 of our trials in Belfast. So year to date so far, we have 125 patients across 17 trials so far this year. We have a target to increase the number of trials to 28 trials this year. You can see we're about halfway down the list already. And if we achieve that, we'll have doubled the number of trials at the end of year 4 of our grant cycle. And it's part of our vision, as you can see, that spread across the page there, that we want to open our trials across all of our sites to achieve our vision and mission of equitable access to clinical trials. One trial I'll briefly highlight is the expert trial, and we've recruited really well to this nationally. The trial is open in Dublin, Cork and Galway, and so far we've 39 patients consented to this trial. Another trial we performed well in is the PRESERVE trial, again open at Dublin, Cork and Galway, and historically radiation trials were predominantly opened in Dublin, so we've really changed that or turned the ship around, as Evelyn mentioned earlier, to have trials open across the country. And with our group effort nationally, Ireland was the highest recruiter to this trial, even ahead of Canada themselves, with 39 of the 90 patients going on trial from Ireland. So to increase the number of trials, we have to increase the number of PIs. We've had an extra 16 new principal investigators for radiation oncology trials since IRROG was formed. We currently have 27 active PIs, and this has been a doubling, more than a doubling of our number of PIs. We continue to welcome and mentor new PIs. Our motto is that there's a trial in everyone. The first one's the hardest, we all know that. Another strength of radiation oncology is our Irish investigator design trials, and we've had some huge successes over the last 20 years in IITs designed by Irish radiation oncologists. Like many of the other trials units, we have a dedicated work package to IITs. Currently, we have 4 IITs open across a range of tumour sites. The open trial has just closed, having recruited 200 patients over a 16-month period, and I presented the results of that as a late-breaking abstract at ESTRO this weekend, just gone by. What's great about these, again, IITs were solely performed in Luke's traditionally, and now we can see that these trials are opening right across the country, including in Belfast also. We have 3 additional IITs under development: Optimise Lung, Propel Liver, being led out by Aisling Barry in Cork, and the Inspire Prostate trial, which is a pan-island trial being co-led from Belfast and Dublin. It will open around the country at all our sites, and we've applied for the HRB ILCT grant call just recently for that trial. So these IITs that we've had great success with need huge support, and we've last month launched the National Radiotherapy Quality Assurance Programme for IITs. We have a full-time physicist to support physicists around the countries, get our trials open to a high quality, and to do that more quickly and collaboratively. This has been generously funded by the St. Luke's Institute of Cancer Research based on a donation of 3 women who cycled from Paris to Nice last year, so we're delighted with that. Our IITs are also supported by the St. Luke's Institute of Cancer Research Fellowship Programme. We have 3 fellows currently working on an adaptive radiotherapy and AI multidisciplinary fellowship, and our radiation oncologist, Jill Nicholson, is completing an MD in breast cancer radiotherapy. So in summary, I think, we can say that IRROG has been successfully established as a national radiotherapy group. We have doubled the number of principal investigators. We're on target to double the number of trials, and we've tripled the number of patients on clinical trials. This hasn't been without challenges. The first and largest challenge is income. I know some of the other presenters mentioned that they had an increase in their funding through the HRB grant cycle. Traditionally in radiation oncology, we've had very high numbers of patients on clinical trials, and with the fee per patient model, previous model, we had much more HRB funding. Our income has actually gone down, and we're now sharing that with our colleagues around the country. So that's been a big challenge. And despite that, as I've shown here in the presentation, we've increased our outputs. There's no rewards for increased outputs, whether we put 300 patients on clinical trials or 30 patients on clinical trials, the money is the same. And this is really difficult for us as an academic radiation oncology group because we don't have the pharma support that other trials group would have. We were promised by the HRB that there would be additional options to apply for direct trial funding, but this has been limited to date. There's only been 1 trial funded under the DIFA award since this new HRB grant cycle started. We welcome the fact that there's a new ILCT grant call that's just opened, and that there's 3 million ring-fenced for cancer as part of the total 12 million package. In relation to our academic partner, Trinity is our university, but I think it's similar for all the grants. 30% of the grant goes on overheads. I'm not really sure still what that's exactly for, and I'm not sure if there's a reporting structure for that overhead grant from the HRB. We've really strengthened our relationship and partnership with CTI through this grant, I feel, and we've really been working closely, like all other groups, in startup efficiency. There's been huge gains made, as some of the earlier speakers, Sinead Brennan, mentioned, in terms of common contracts and DPIA. But again, there's that constant tension between the prioritisation of funded studies, such as pharma studies, and non-funded academic studies and IITs. Another difference for our group is that all of our sites, all of our public sites are HSE hospitals. So in addition to the vacancies we've had in our clinical departments, we've also had vacancies in our CTRUs. Despite having funding available, despite having suitable, highly qualified candidates, we haven't been allowed to hire them because of the embargo. In terms of financial reporting, I think most groups will comment on this today. IRROG is a national group that's increasingly complex, trying to report through one university on one grant. It's more efficient as a national group. We've had greater impact as a national group, as I think I've shown today. But really, I think we could streamline the way we report, the way we do our financial reporting, and we'd really welcome some further engagement with the HRB as to how we might work best as a national group with the HRB. Thank you.